I got the walk, there's a longboard walk. I know the talk, the longboard talk.
It's episode 25. You're here for our quarter century. And tonight on Oz Longboarding, wherever you're watching us from, we're going to be discussing our scariest experiences in surfing. So tonight it's just the panel. In fact, it's only two-thirds of the panel. Matty Chinosky has half his workshop hanging out in the bad weather, so he's working through the night to get those cars done. We haven't heard from Jack Entwistle. Hopefully he joins us later. But in the meantime, I'm Weeksy in Western Australia, and it's been a pretty good week in WA. Sun's shining, easterly winds, which is offshore for us here. But I haven't had a chance to go surfing, although I look like I've been out in the sun. I've been spray painting, rust fixing trucks. But anyway, someone who hopefully has seen the ocean this week, I know he will have seen the water somewhere along the line, looking behind himself at a beautiful picture of himself nose riding all the way from Victoria. Nathan Riverland, how are you, champ?
Good Weeksy. Thanks for having me on again. Seeing a bit of the pool water this week, in this last week, but not so much ocean. The waves have been pretty crappy and really small as well. We've had a few really nice warm days of weather. Being yesterday and the day before, it was like mid-20s to, I think it was 30 Tuesday, which was Melbourne Cup Day. It's been nice weather, but not much waves to speak of. But I think tomorrow is going to be pretty good, and then heading into next week should be all right as well.
So how awesome is that then when Mother Nature's not playing the game, you've got the option to go out to Tullamarine and jump on a perfect wave. So have you been surfing in the pool?
Yeah, I've been surfing a bit. Actually, we've been relatively booked out since we opened about 2 weeks ago. But there's been the odd spot open on the left-hander, so I've been able to surf with some groups, and it's been really good. It's been nice to get back on a shortboard a little bit more as well, because I've been longboarding so much over winter. It's been good to get back in the pool. And on when did I work last? I think it was Tuesday. It was 22 degrees, the water. So it was awesome. Really nice to be in some warm water.
Oh, mate, I'm so jealous. And I just want to have a go. We need one in WA that faces the opposite direction to the prevailing winds. But anyhow, someone else who I'm also jealous of for much the same reason, because she's been down there in the Tullamarine tank as well. Kira Molnar on the Sunshine Coast. How's your week been?
Pretty good actually. Managed to get a few waves in early this week. We have had some hectic storms up here recently. I know a lot of people were waiting on getting their power back. Unfortunately, hasn't really brought in as many waves as we would hope, but hoping that we might be having some waves over the weekend coming. Winds have been a bit all over the place. North one day, south the next, so we're not really sure what's going on up here.
Always weather dependent, our sport, and this is why it's so exciting, the wave pools. I know I keep going on about it, but anyway. So
the amount we talk about it, you could almost get a free pass at the pool, you'd think, the amount we give them.
If only my premier would let me out of my state, mate, I'd be over there already. But that's one of those ones where that's a bucket list already. But in the meantime, tantalisingly close, but also hasn't been in the water there yet. Shawnee McEwen, how's the Gold Coast treating you?
It's been a pretty good week, really. We certainly this morning wasn't too good. We had northerlies, but there was a heap of swell over D-Bar. But earlier in the week, we've had nice little 2-foot peelers coming through the points, a little bit bigger at Rainbow Snapper, of course. But yeah, hey, the water's beautiful. The mornings are warm. It's just been a really choice time of year to be there.
Oh, choice brew.
Right?
I'm just practicing my Kiwi voice brew. Are we allowed to tell people why I'm practicing my Kiwi voice?
We'll hold it just a little bit longer.
All right.
Okay. But make sure you get your passports ready.
Oh, he's giving away a bit. So it sounds like it's been a great week. Actually, we had a lot of rain for a couple of days in Perth because I had some painting to do. So basically what happens is if I do painting or if I clean a car, it rains. So now that I'm doing detailing, it's going to get very wet on the west side. But what we're here to talk about today is what scares us in surfing. And, I think, how old were you when you started surfing, Kira? Kira, she's frozen.
Frozen.
It's all right. She's back.
I was
Yeah, she is.
about 6.
Oh,
Just frozen
we'll
again.
get back to that. So, Nath, mate, I'll go
Okay.
to you next as the other young'un, the token spring chicken.
Sorry.
Victoria's a scary part of
6.
the world. Hey, she's back. 6. There you go. So, surfing that young, did you have any gnarly experiences when you were a little tacker, or did that come later on? Sure.
Oh no, I'm so
This is
sorry.
this is a fun part of the weekly show, but we'll
Okay, go again.
just saying, surfing as a 6-year-old, obviously that's very young, and I know people can barely remember what they do when they're 6. But did you have any scary experiences as a little tacker starting off so young?
I think when I was like really young, I was probably more scared about like bigger waves kind of thing and kind of getting swept away in the current. I don't think I really had any like hectic experiences too much. I actually did really fear something so silly, but like every summer here we get the northerly winds and we get all this seaweed that comes in. And so I remember being one day paddling out in the seaweed, not really sure what was going on. And I'm pretty sure my dad was surfing out the back and I was just like on the inside screaming like, help, I'm stuck in the seaweed. And that was probably one of my biggest fears when I was like 6 and surfing.
Oh, wow. I can relate.
Why, but
I can relate to that. As almost 50, I was still scared of the weed bags. When we have regularly here where I live, it stinks of seaweed, for a month or so. They'll get massive banks of seaweed build up. But as they break up, you get those caught in your leg rope and you can't paddle anywhere and you get dragged under. As a 6-year-old, that must have been, as a tiny little kid, that must have been.
yeah, I probably still touch the ground where I was standing though.
You never know that at the time. Nath, learning to surf as a grommet in Victoria. I mean, some of my surfing scariest experiences have taken place as an adult in Victoria. So what was it like there as a kid?
I actually kind of grew up surfing the past at Byron because we lived in Melbourne until I was 7 or 8, so still over an hour from the coast. But yeah, so on family trips when we go up to Noosa and Byron, I probably started getting in when I was about 5 years old. But I can remember, yeah, just some big days at the pass, and that was probably like the first time I'd seen like and been scared of waves. They're just like looking out, going like, holy crap, like, and behind the rock and you see it tubing, like, oh crap. So yeah, but I just remember early on learning at the pass, and then the odd trip down to Torquay, where my mum's parents lived at the time, or still live, and we get some waves down here every now and again, but kind of got really into it when we moved down when I was 8. So yeah, mostly at the pass I can remember early on.
Sean, save me here, mate. I want to get scary kid surfing. We've got Sunshine Coast and Byron bloody Bay. So I mean, New Zealand.
Yeah, hey, I got a million scary stories. So I don't know whether I'm the biggest coward under the sun or not, but yeah, I've been scared so many times. Probably the first time that I can remember being really, really scared. As a grom surfing out at Piha, and for those that aren't familiar with Piha, if it's 6 foot high, it's 6 foot thick, it is just a heavy wave. This particular day, it was massive. Yeah, when you're grom, yeah, it's going to be massive. So it was probably in the 12 foot plus range. Myself and my mates are all, gung ho. We're going to go out there with the older guys. They all got smashed and washed in, and lo and behold, off popped up out the back, and I'm just going, wow, I'm out here, and all these older guys, they're ignoring me. I'm paddling around, and these sets are coming through, and I'm just going, oh, what the hell am I doing here? And so I just kept paddling around and sort of not even going to try and catch one of these. And then it occurs to me, how the hell am I going to get back in? And so I've just, bided my chance. I've probably been out there an hour plus, just floating. So I've turned and paddled for this wave, and I am shaking. I'm scared. And all I could think of was I was going to get a fin through the eye. I have no idea why, but it was just going through my mind. and I've paddled. It's strong offshore blowing up the face of this wave. Yeah, and like I say, it's 12 foot plus. I've caught it, or it's picked me up. I've jumped to my feet and I've slipped straight away at the top of the wave. And thankfully, with the strong offshore, it's blown us off the back of the wave. So I've paddled around out there for another half hour, 45 minutes before I've got to catch one. Finally, I've paddled onto a wave and just dropped down the face of it, done a bottom turn, and then just got smashed and washed in. That was my first real scary, what the hell am I doing out here experience.
How old were you, Sean?
27.
When you were a Grom.
I was only a junior, sort of 16, 17. But it was just, it was out of my league. There was no ifs or buts at that stage. And like I said, all the older older guys wouldn't talk to us, and all my mates had been washed in. So I was feeling fairly lonely out there.
Well, I'm with you, Sean, as far as when you told us what the show was going to be about this week, and someone actually asked me about half an hour before we went on, saying, "What's your scariest story?" I was like, I can think of about 50. As a kid in WA, like Dad would say, "Oh, we're going to go down south for the weekend," and you'd kind of go, "Yeah," and then you also go, "Ooh." And sleeping at the caravan park, and you can hear the in the night time, because you go down on a Friday arvo after school, and it takes 3 hours to get there, so it's dark by the time you're down south, the Margaret River area, and and fear that passes in an instant as well, like getting bounced around under the water and you don't know which way is up or down, and then all of a sudden it's over, and so there's that instant fear. But then there's also the impending doom fear. So there's all different types of fears. Obviously, there's the animals that share the water with us. There's the darkness. Funny, Sean. Okay, so you mentioned how am I going to get back in? So one of my scariest, sort of more drawn out, I guess, experiences in surfing. We didn't even go surfing. So where I live here in Lancelin now, as a kid, it used to be, an hour and a half north drive from Perth. And so I was pretty young, had my license, but so let's say 18, 19. And a couple of friends from work came with me to Lancelin, and we borrowed my dad's boat. And the outboard was kind of a bit stuttery, and it was a bit like cutting in and out. You couldn't really accelerate, but, that's all right. We're going surfing. And there's, in the town around there, either north and south of town, there's an island. So there's Lancelin Island and Edward Island. And in between the two islands, there's a string of reef. There's a couple of waves. So you've got South Passage, which is the southern passage of Lancelin Island, and you've got Hole in the Wall, which is a gap in the reef where the crayfish boats go out. Literally it's a hole in this wall of rock. And so somehow, I don't know how, we managed to make it out the back because it was quite big. And like my mates were kind of like, they weren't quite as experienced a surfer as I was, but I was kind of being a bit braver than I really was. Like, oh yeah, we surf like this all the time, but it was pretty big. And so somehow made it out the back. And I was about to put the anchor in where we normally park the boats. And then a wave was clearly about to break right on top of our heads. And thankfully, I hadn't dropped the anchor yet, and and the motor was still running, and off we went. Another probably 100 meters out to sea, and watched the wave that would have just totally capsized us. And so then same deal happened again. Another wave, even bigger, looked like it was going to break. I moved into even deeper water. And by this point, I was like, what are we doing now? Because I'm about 300, 400 meters further out to sea than where the actual break is. And normally you can actually park inside the break. So anyway, the boys are like, we're not going surfing. I'm like, oh, can you just sort of drive around with the outboard and I'll go for a surf? And neither of my mates was that convinced. And I'm looking at it hoping they say no. And then I realized that looking back towards land, I couldn't see a gap anywhere in the white water. So normally, there's a wave that breaks over there and there's a wave that breaks over there, and you can sort of see the gap, and that channel leads into the hole in the wall. Couldn't see a gap anywhere. And the motor's going, blah, 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 blah. So I had two goes at it, like we're heading in. So you follow a swell when it's that big, basically. You wait for a wave to break, head for the shore, but stay in between the wave that's just broken and the one that's marching along behind you. So first two attempts, the throttle wasn't working properly on the outboard. And the two mates who weren't experienced in boats at all, and it was only a small dinghy, and they're looking back behind them at these massive swells lining up. And of course, every time they both turned, the boat was rocking. I'm like, sit still. The motor's going, blah, blah, blah. third go at it, managed to sort of hold, 2/3 revs so that I didn't actually make the motor stall out. And then a cray boat had actually come from the jetty on the beach and driven out to where the gap is, a hole in the wall, and was parked there, sort of flashing lights and stuff. And so I aimed for the boat, and then I knew where the little gap in the reef was, and we managed to make it in. And all I remember from that day, while my heartbeat was sort of slowly returning to normal and my mates were freaking out, was this crayfish skipper standing on the deck of his boat looking at me going. And so didn't even go for a surf, but that's probably my dead set scariest surf experience, because there was 2 other lives in my hands as well, and I was well outside my skill level. Have you ever had a problem with getting back in from somewhere, Nate?
Yeah, they've just been like, I'm trying to even think of it. There's been plenty of times, but I remember surfing Waimea Bay when I was maybe 14, 15.
You had a hell of a childhood, son. You're not even into upper school, high school yet, and you've got Byron. Anyway, carry on. Waimea Bay.
Yeah, we're in Hawaii. I was just in Hawaii with the family, and we were staying at Turtle Bay Resort, and which is probably like 20-minute drive from where Waimea Bay is. And that day, like the big swell had come in probably 2 days before, and it was 8 to 10 foot out the front of Turtle Bay, and we're going like, oh shit, like can't surf it because it's just gets real close outy and it's just disgusting. And one of the surf coaches there, Nick Jones, if you're watching, mate, how are you? Good to hear from you. Was surfing. A surf coach there was like, hey, let's you want a bit of a challenge? Come and surf Waimea Bay with me. I'm like, oh, all right. Shitting myself, going, how the crap am I going to do this? And I'm thinking all I've got with me is like a 5'6", a 5'5", and a 5'8". So I'm like, oh, I'm so out of my depth. Anyway, he goes into the highest shot, the highest story. He goes, oh, ride this. And it was like a 7'6", Simon Anderson. Done. And I was like, all right, cool. Anyway, we turned up, and I'm thinking, oh, he was sort of saying he was checking it on the webcast, going, oh, it doesn't look that big. It's probably like 6 foot. And we turned up, and like just people running everywhere with life jackets and the vests. And I'm just going, oh my gosh, I'm so out of my depth. And anyway, Waimea, like it was probably like 8 to 10 foot, and I was still crapping myself, but it was pretty long between the sets. So I was like, all right, he was like, okay, just sit in the channel, watch for a bit and get a gauge for it. And anyway, I remember, just being like crapping myself the whole time, but just going like, it's the most exhilarating thing I'd ever done. When I probably managed to get like 4 or 5 waves. And I saw, I'm trying to think, there's that big wave female from Hawaii. Keala Kennedy?
Keala Kennedy.
Yeah, sorry, that one. And she was sitting out there with a life vest on, and I was going like, geez, like I was feeling so good about myself. Going like, I'm out here with her, and like this is awesome. And and the shorey was massive that day, and that was the thing what it was scaring me the most, kind of about getting in and out, because you've got to time it there, because if you don't, you're just getting absolutely drilled on the sand. So yeah, that's probably bit of a backstory about, but I just remember getting in and trying to come in and just the big waves and just going like, anyway, I think I remember getting drilled on the sand. I ended up mistiming it, and just getting dad's watching on the sand, laughing at me.
What a good dad.
Yeah, he actually brought the camera. We got this really crappy Nikon film camera, and it was just like, I was like, you got to get this on film. Like, this is awesome. And anyway, he was filming, but the zoom on it was so bad that he couldn't get any of my waves. So anyway, good experience, but very scary. And that was probably like one of the first times I really felt out of my depth, especially in Hawaii, where it's pretty different to Victoria. Like Victoria is pretty powerful most of the time, but going over there, I was like, this is a step up.
And that's freaky as well. If you've got a known big wave surfer out there like Keala Kennedy, she charges. If she's out there wearing a vest, you obviously had a good reason to be concerned. And Waimea Bay is famous. The shore break just smashes you. So even if you go out there thinking, I'm not even going to catch a wave, coming back in through the shore break scares the pro tour guys. So that's some balls as a kid. Kira, have you ever thought you weren't going to make it back to the shore, or wondered how you were going to do it?
There was, it wasn't that big actually, but me and my mate, Adam, we surfed Raglan, and there was like no one there, and it was pretty cold. And what's that? The first part's called Whale.
The first bay is Manu Bay, then there's Whale Bay, then Indicators.
Yeah, so we went to Indicators, and we were like, where the hell do we paddle out? So there was a local guy there, and we were like, all right, like it wasn't big. It was like maybe 5 foot on the sets or something, and full tide. So hell do we paddle out here? Like we just had no idea. So we followed this local guy out who was really nice enough to take us out. Anyway, we were surfing for a long time. I was like, my hands were frozen. I was freezing. I was like, okay, it's time to go in. And this guy had already gone in, and I had no idea where we paddled in from to get out of there. But deep down in all those rocks, there's all those oysters and everything right in between them. So anyway, I'm like, oh my God, this is going to go maybe not so good, because my mate, he's a pretty good surfer, but like he's still got a bit to learn. So anyway, I've kind of like belly boarded kind of across the rocks and just got in. I'm like, oh, okay. And then I turn around and he's like trying to run up the rocks. He's just like got this pool of blood behind him. He's just missed and slid his foot in between the oyster and the rock, and then just walking in, and like not that scary, but I think more not having the knowledge, or having someone who knows the knowledge of getting in there, was like a little bit, oh shit, what do we do now? So yeah, I guess that's one of my stories.
Sometimes there's a lot about the build-up about the place as well. Obviously, Nathan with Waimea Bay, knowing that what's to come with the shore break. Uluwatu in Bali is well known as for the strong currents, and obviously you got to go in and out through the cave. And so sometimes it can be really difficult to make your way back to the front of the cave, and then you got to go along the cliff face and paddle back around again. And just knowing in your head beforehand that that's coming, like that can really play into it. So where would you say Sean would have been? Obviously, Piha in New Zealand, I love watching the surf lifesavers there, because someone's going to get their paddle boat smashed. But obviously that would be a scary place for you. But where would you, in your head, where's the place that before you went there you had the most trepidation?
There's a couple of places that have really scared the shit out of me over there. One trip we did down to a place called White Rock, and that's east coast down the I'm trying to think of the name of it. It's down off Cape Palliser, and we'd heard all about White Rock, and we're doing the surf trip, and we've gone, yep, got to go there. What we'll do is we'll grab a carton of beer at the next town, and we'll get out some food at the shop at White Rock. So we got the carton of beer, and those days we used to have a little bit of electric puha as well. And we get to White Rock, and what it is there's a red barn with a white rock. That's it. There's nothing there, but just a road. So we're following the road, and we go out, and you go just on a dirt track, and we're in a Ford Cortina station wagon, 3 of us. Follow this track, we go over a creek and up over a cliff top, and we come out at a Department of Conservation hut where the hunters stay. And we're there, and we're looking out at the surf, and it's huge. And we're sort of going, well, it's at the bottom of this cliff, and we're looking and going, I wonder how big it is, and that. And we thought, we'll just see, what it's going to be like. We've gone into this hunter's cabin and they've got a logbook there for people that stay there, tell you what they've been doing and where they're going, etc. And we're reading all these horror stories and that about how bad the place can be and all. Anyway, we've had a few beers and a bit of the electric puha, and sort of myself and my mate Rob Mann, we've gone, let's go for a surf. And the third guy with us, Andy, No, he had more sense. He wasn't going anywhere. But we've climbed down this cliff and timed it, and we've jumped out, and we're surfing a spot called Seconds. And it was just a big, fat right-hander coming in. It was probably 10 foot, but it was soft as. But we caught a few waves and that, and then decided, we'd had our fill. We're looking at where do we come in, because it was just these big boulders that were at the foot of this cliff. And we're going, how dumb was this? We had no idea where we were going to come in. So we were paddling around looking for a safe area to come in, and it just, water washing us across rocks. And that was pretty horrific.
This is, I think, what maybe non-surfers don't understand. They think of, okay, well, we're probably going to be scared of a big wave landing on our head, or we're going to be scared of a big shark coming and chomping on us. They don't get the fact that getting into the water and getting out of the water can be death-defying in itself sometimes. And, look, a wrong step at the wrong time, especially on barnacle rocks and that sort of thing, and you can be in some serious trouble.
And it doesn't have to be big to be in trouble. Like you can be at Snapper or up at the alley there and on the rocks, and just a bit of white water washes you off or knocks you off your feet and then drags you across those razor sharp rocks. And man,
I just thought of one of my scariest. Kira, you'll get a laugh out of this. Walking along that little ledge to get around the front of the rocks to jump off at Boiling Pot.
Yeah, I actually got a story from that too.
Oh, little kids are going do like mountain goats, and there's Weeksy like, frozen in terror because my foot slipped, and I'm like, hang on a minute, how am I going to get around that next corner? Tell us your story, because that's a tricky getting into the water.
I went out one day, like quite a while back now, probably a fair few years, and I just went to jump off at the Boiling Pot, but it was during like a cyclone swell. It wasn't huge, but the tide was really like big, and it was really full. And I've just walked around, and I was like, I've come this far, I have to jump off now. And so I've actually gone off the flat rock in hindsight, I probably should have on a Boiling Pot. And I'm like, okay, yep, sweet wave. And I was like just standing there getting ready to jump, and the wave, no joke, out of nowhere washed me up behind that rock, and there's about like a 2-foot drop behind that flat rock that you jump off on. And I've gotten washed behind there, landed like on my back with my board on top of me. And I was like, it was just not my day at all. Come up, like kind of scratched on the butt and my leg and my arm, and I was like, looked at my board, I'm like, oh, sick, my board's okay. Like, that's all that matters. I can still go surfing because it's fine. So I was like, gone back up to the rock, gone to jump off it. Meanwhile, someone else has like almost done the same thing. It was just too full tide and like swell coming in. And as I've gone to jump off the second time, I've like hit the rock where my fins are and like knocked 3 fins out of my board. Oh, and so finally paddled out, took off on a wave, didn't realise until I took off on a wave, did a turn, and I just went whoom and skidded out underneath me. I turned my board over and I had like no fins, and I was like, oh my God, this is the worst day ever. Like, what? I was like, I just should never, those days when you just like, I should have just gone home. But anyway.
I've got to put my hand up. I have bounced down, well, I call it the boat ramp, the flat rock one, but I've bounced down that on my backside on more than one occasion. But Nathan, it seems that you like to have a few drinks in Bali and go night surfing. Talk us through what goes on there, mate. And thanks Jimmy, for the heads up.
It's a funny one. I was in, we're in Karamis. When was it? Start of last year. And the surf was really crap in the afternoon. And we're just staying at Commune in that resort on the beach at Karamis. And we were swimming around and having cocktails and at the bar. And I'm just like, oh, this is awesome. Loving life with everyone, just having cocktails. And then we kind of were scoping out wanting to night surf under the lights there. And for the few days prior. And then we ended up booking it in that night. And the reason why we got on the cocktails was because they're like, oh, we're going to probably cancel it tonight because it's gone onshore and it's pretty crappy. And as we're having cocktails, I'm probably like, oh, I'd had a few and I was pretty chirpy and, being a bit of a menace.
Yeah, we saw you on your birthday, Nate.
Well, actually, maybe I was really quiet. I went through this phase where if I had a few too many cocktails, I'd just not speak and just like get really, really quiet. I can't remember if it was either. But anyway, it's not that important. The surf turns on like as we're having cocktails, and anyway, they're like, "Oh, we're gonna do the Balinese guys are like coming. We're gonna do the night surf. We're gonna do the night surfing." And my cousin, who was like 16, 17, obviously is not having any beers or anything, and I was gonna surf with him.
Of course not. Of course not. No one ever has beers in Bali when they're 16, 17.
Well, he wasn't. He was being a good boy. I don't know about you. And anyway, yeah, he's like frothing. I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna do it. And anyway, we paddled out. And during the other, it'd been like 2 foot onshore, and we're paddling out. And as I've walked from the bar, and I've just like seen this like 6 foot set under lights go through, and just like absolutely kegging, and I'm going, oh my gosh, like I'm wobbly walking down to the beach. And then anyway, paddle out and like could not see because of the your eyes are just getting used to the limited amount of light, and it was just like freaky. So thanks, Sarah, for bringing that one up. That was fun. But yeah, it was awesome surf. Ended up sobering up pretty quickly because the excitement got a hold of me. Anyway, it was good.
Sorry, it was Sarah who dropped the note in the comments. But if Julie's watching, I'm sure she is. If you're adopting, these family holidays, I want in. So. Dean Challen's tuned in up on the sunny coast. How are you, brother? It's he's inspired me to become a detailer. It's the truth. So nighttime surfing. I've got a funny story about Samoa where I was concerned for my welfare and I was making plans to escape the situation, but I wasn't scared as such. But turns out the whole village was. So in a little town called Lalamanu, Alipaka represent brothers, where I stay in Samoa with my Samoan family. There's a little channel in the reef, and so there's a right-hander. So you go out through this little cut, and it's coral reef, and it's staghorn coral, and at low tide you can't paddle in through it because the coral kind of sticks up out of the water. So literally you get high and dry in the lagoon. Anyway, there's a little gap where you paddle out. The water sort of sucks out. It's a nice, easy paddle out. And I went the other way and was surfing this left-hander further up the reef on my own until I was basically knackered and the sun had gone down and it was gone dark. And I paddled back down the reef to the channel, and essentially the tide's running out. So it's like a river coming out through the little hole in the coral. And so you ride a wave and on the white water and try and paddle through, but there was so much water coming out that it would then grab a hold of me and suck me back out to the back of the coral. And so after third or fourth go of this, I was a bit, I really couldn't work out how I was going to do it because the waves weren't big enough to go against the amount of water drawing out of the lagoon as the tide was receding, and couldn't go straight across the coral because it was literally staghorn coral to the surface of the water because it was coming up to low tide. So eventually that's what I actually had to do welcome back, Nath, was catch a wave on my stomach straight across the coral until basically just ground to a halt, and then sort of fingertips had to crawl across the top of the reef to get back to where I could even get my fingertips into paddle. It wasn't scary as such like that, although when I didn't think I was going to get back inside the lagoon, I was planning about the next village down and where there was a hole. Essentially, though, the end of the story was as I got onto the beach, onto the road that leads just around the corner to the house where I was staying with a family house on the beach there, about 2/3 of the village was sitting on the side of the road. Some of them were like, they all thought that I was gone because it does happen. Tourists disappear out of that little hole in the reef and never come back, and they reappear a few villages down a couple of days later. But yeah, that was one where people were scared on my behalf. And I know that, some of the kids and some of the crazy stuff they're doing now must be very, very scary for the parents. Was there ever a time, Kira, where you reckon you gave your parents a heart attack? Nathan's parents, obviously, on the beach at Waimea, even though they laughed, they were probably crapping themselves. But have you done that to your parents?
Yeah, probably done that to mum sometimes, like paddling out in certain ways, and she'd be standing on the beach watching, I would say. Yeah, I'll have to ask her, but I'm sure I have, definitely.
Nath? Mum and Dad?
Go on, sorry.
No, same question, mate. When do you reckon is the time that you've scared, when you weren't necessarily scared yourself, but other people were scared on your behalf?
Probably I'd surfed quite big bells when I'd just gotten back from Hawaii, because I was just got super psyched on surfing big waves. Not really. Anyway, I paddled out at Bells and was not very busy because it was just real ugly and big. And my cousin and uncle and mum were standing up on the rocks and up on the rocks on the boardwalk watching, and yeah, they were pretty scared for me. That one definitely comes to mind, because I remember coming in and they still always talk about it. And I mean, I don't know, I just at the time, I just went through a bit of a phase where I was a bit fearless, and I think every kid does. But yeah, it was pretty big, and they were crap, and I was a bit too. And when I came in and started watching it from the beach, I was like, yeah, okay. But actually, I remember one set from that time, it was a bomb, and I'd never had the feeling before of feeling like I was actually, it started to go through my head. It's like, oh, I hope I'm going to come up after this set. And I'd never had that feeling before. And it was really weird, stomachy like feeling. It was like coming up. I was like, oh my gosh. Like, anyway, I managed to come up. I got really lucky and got under this wave. But yeah, it was pretty scary just watching a big sort of closes out set come through Bells, and you got nowhere to go. So yeah.
Yeah, guys, have you ever had one of those ones where you're paddling out and you duck dive it and you're like, yeah, I made it under, and then you get up the top and you just go,
yeah.
That's
that feeling of like, I made it. No.
Oh yeah, I think anyone who's ever surfed Margaret Rivers felt that. Because it's interesting how different parts of Australia the water feels different. You can almost sort of tell where you are by the feel of the water. But Margaret River has this little shunt that comes out of the top of the wave as it breaks, like a big chunk of the lip just sort of goes sideways, and it has that effect. That's the slowest, wrongest feeling in surfing, isn't it? Going backwards over the falls. It's just like
very slow motion. You're like.
Look, everyone who's watching will have had that at some point, that feeling, even on a small day, if you're surfing over shallow reef or rock or even shallow sandbank and there's lots of other people around. Some of the scariest surfing for me has been at like Snapper, and you're paddling out and there's 4 guys all dropping in on each other over top of your head, and someone's chucking an air across the top of them, and there's 3 people behind you, and the guy in front's just bailed his board, and it's mayhem. And I'm sure that everyone watching has had both of those feelings. But I'm glad you brought that up, Kira. That going backwards over the falls thing, that's just it's the longest, it's the longest second and a half in surfing. The impending doom.
Speaking of being really crowded, have you guys ever had any like hectic collisional accidents, or like with your own board as well?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I had one at Snapper. Can't remember, it's that long ago, but. And it was before it got really super crowded. But there was a guy on a goat boat out there. I've taken off on a wave and I'm cranking this bottom turn. And I look up and I see the nose of his goat boat just about to hit me in the face. He'd taken off late, got lip launched straight into me.
Oh.
It hit me, broke my cheekbone, broke my nose, knocked me out type thing. I've come up and blood everywhere and that. The good part of it was it did clear out a lot of the sinus problems I had. So, but man, that was scary. You know, I saw him. There was just no way. I was doing a bottom turn. I couldn't avoid what was going to happen. You could just see it happening, and he had no control. So I went to the hospital. He went back out and got a couple of more waves, and then ran over one of the well-known shapers around here and cut him up as well.
Oh,
God.
I had a board that we used to call the killer attack snake. It was a yellow, big, wide swallowtail single fin knee board that my uncle Carl had made for himself. So he's a big guy, so it was a big guy's knee board, and that was my second stand-up surfboard. So after I got rid of the 7.2 Cordingley single fin, I went to I don't even know, it was probably about 6'2" or something, but a big wide kneeboard fish thing. And my older brother made the mould for the Kookaburra 2, the wing keel for the America's Cup. And so he decided to make him and I a couple of aluminium wing fins for our surfboard. So out came the fiberglass single fin, and in went a fin box, which were pretty all the rage at the time. Turn your 20 into a thruster. But the fin box went in, and yeah, this aluminium wing fin. So it was basically the template of a normal fin with this winged keel thing coming out of it. And of course, you have to make it shiny. So to make it shiny, you have to sand it and grind it. And it ended up being very sharp. So when you fell off the killer attack snake, and that was called that because it had Snake Tails, the cartoon character my uncle loved, and so he'd drawn that snake on the board when he made the board, so it was the snake. Then when it had that fin, it was the killer attack snake. But a couple of times I remember seeing like literally bubbles, water trails coming off of these wing fins, all past your head, and it was a couple of times I did make contact with various parts of the body. It always drew blood. So yeah, equipment has probably been my biggest danger. I've never actually had a bad collision. I mean, you get a bump and a bruise here and there. Snapper is just mental for that sort of thing. But I'm surprised more don't happen, to be honest. It's one of those things. But how about animals? Have you guys come in contact with animals in the water? My worst was with a seal, still dark in the morning, pulling on my leg rope and bumping the bottom of my board. And I just got off my little brother's, the cray boat he was working on as a decky. So I'd help them do the bait, and on their way out to fish in the morning, 4:30 in the morning, I'd jump off the back of the boat and surf at that break I was telling you about, the 4-hole in the wall. Dark, no one else has come out yet, and this seal started having a bit of a play with me, and it scared the absolute crap out of me. I've been in the water with sharks and not really that scary. It's sort of if you have a plan, but seals scared the crap out of me that particular day. Have you ever had a problem with animals in the water, Nath? I see you smiling.
I've actually been really lucky. I've seen a few small sharks, but from a distance, I've been pretty far away from them, and they haven't been ones that are that gnarly. But I just was smiling because I had this thought about when you're talking about seals, that my dad was surfing at Point Addis probably about 10 years ago, and a seal chased him up the beach. And so he had to smack it with his surfboard because it was smacking. So yeah, that just came to my mind because he's been telling the story for a while. But yeah, that's pretty funny.
That's a really vivid image.
Yeah, like fully, it's like you image it, it's like, how's that even happen? But other times, just like animals. I remember we were sitting at Belongil, surfing near Byron, and a shark had just been in the water, and we had no idea, and this guy came to on the jet ski and was like, just be careful, everyone's gone out of the water because there's a white or something out here, and then everyone's paddled back out because they've seen, like, we paddled out and we had no idea, and we were sitting there for about 5 minutes, there's no waves, and then something where it's kind of sitting in a bit of a circle, and this thing just pops up in the middle, and I think it was a dolphin or a seal, but I just remember everyone just like yelling, like screaming, just going like, it's like the scariest thing, thinking that it might have been a shark.
No matter what, whether it's a dolphin or something, it's like, and then relax.
Yeah. Heart rate goes through the roof. But yeah.
Actually, really funny story when we were surfing at Water Goes last year for the Byron Bay Surf Festival. And he was taking some photos, and there's this photo of Stevie Sawyer. I think it might have been in the final heat at the end of the day, and there's this massive shark in the back of the wave, this huge fin. And I'm pretty sure when I was paddling out there, I seen one kind of just go past, and I was like, I'm just going to ignore that and keep paddling. It was going the other way, but the photo's pretty epic. I'll have to see if I can get him
it's
to
on video as well.
Longboarding Facebook.
The young guy that videoed part of it, he sent it up, and you can see the whoever was surfing, and you just see the fin going behind them. And I don't know who the contest director is, but he needs to be fired.
Hey, Weeksy.
I've just shared a video to the Facebook page, but I might chuck it on here because I know that some people only see this on YouTube. You guys want to watch a funny video? So this is.
While you're waiting for that, I got a good one from one of my trips to the Fillows. First trip, there was no surf, and we're swimming across the lagoon, and they told us all about sea snakes. They're black and white, and that, and if they call them a hass. If they bite you, you got 8 hours, I think, before you die. Yeah, sort of. So we're snorkeling along, having a look, and I see this sea snake on the bottom of the water on the sand. I'm pretty sure it's a sea snake. It was black and white. It was long. It was really fat, but yeah, I didn't know much about him. So I kept an eye on it, and I get over to the other side, the reef, and I sort of still watching as I back into the reef. And the next minute, I've been bitten in the bum by a sea snake. And I've got stood up, and another sea snake has bitten me underneath my foot. And I'm screaming, I'm going, oh, I'm dead. Turns out, while I'd been watching this thing that turned out to be a sea slug or something, wasn't even a snake. And I've gone straight over and backed into a sea urchin and stood up on another one.
Oh my gosh, that's a rough right, sure.
It's like a Mr. Bean like episode. You know, which everything just goes wrong one after another.
Yeah. Did you guys just read that one on the Facebook page from Rob Ryan?
Do you want to read it?
Yeah, do it.
All right, so Rob Ryan's commented, a friend who will remain nameless went into a barrel over the falls and ran out of the water with his testicles hanging out of his scrotum. True story. I had to take him to hospital. Lucky boy has had children since, but his testicles were the size of a large mango for a while. That sounds very gruesome.
It sounds scary being mates with someone having that happen to them.
Absolutely.
I couldn't deal. So look, I'll show you this. I'll show you this one. This is from just going for a surf at the local Tom's surf break actually. So hello to the Tom's crew. I know a few of them tune in, but this is not going to play the game now, is it? But what do you see there, guys? Am I
just a white screen, Weeksy?
Blank screen.
Yeah, good old technology Weeksy kills it again. But anyway, I've put it on the Facebook page, so probably don't need to show it on here as well. People who are on YouTube and aren't seeing it, I'll just tell you the quick story. So I was at the beach and a shark came, and so there was 3 of us out surfing, and the other 2, it was my girlfriend at the time and this other guy, and they were over there on the right hand, or I was over here on the left hand, and they both started paddling for the beach, and they were on shortboards. I was on longboard. So what's going on? There's a shark. There's a shark. So I don't know. My natural inclination was just to paddle in between them and the shark because they're on shortboards and I'm on a longboard. So as they were paddling to the beach, I sort of paddled from where I was over here, over behind them in the line that they were sort of taking to the beach. And the shark was just sort of doing its thing. It was looking for some fish or whatever. But obviously that, you know, the preparedness thing I have is like, I will let the shark know you're there and don't sort of threaten it, but paddle towards it. So that's what I did. The other 2 made it to the beach. I jumped out of the water and then we're watching, and the shark sort of carried on and then off down the reef. And it had been there every day for about a week. And so the news people were onto it and that sort of thing. Anyway, so the other guy decided he was going to paddle back out. So he's out there on his own. And so I said to my girlfriend, can you whistle? And she said, what do you mean? Can you whistle? And she's like, yeah. I said, well, I'll go out with him so that he's not out there on his own. If the shark comes again, give us a whistle. So I went back out, and then while I was out there, the TV crew rocked up. And it was one of the guys that used to work on my TV show. Actually, his name's Nathan, and he reminds me a lot of you, Nathan. Nice young bloke. Anyway, so I gave him like 8 different responses. One was like, oh my God, there was this shark, and I freaked out. And then I went, well, you know, man, we're in the shark's playground, so we got to give it a bit of a hug if we can. And I gave him all these different versions. But anyway, so I put it up on Facebook earlier on, and one of my mates was like, oh, that's just a baby. The guy that said that was one of those 2 guys in the back of the dinghy, that a story I told you before, who was crapping himself. So Keith Jackson, you've been outed. So, that video, yeah, that's just from the news, and he showed the one where I just sort of went, oh yeah, it was a shark. But what's
so
that?
get your name right this time?
Oh yeah, yes he did. He was very on the ball. Can't have that Jason Woods guy getting all the credit for everything. But look, I'd really like to hear people's scary stories. I mean, ones that don't involve exploded testicles would be probably better. Let's face it. But so I look forward to reading all the comments on the Facebook stream as people tell their stories. But I don't know. I've said goodbye to the world and like goodbye, Mum, I love you, and on three separate occasions. Twice in Indonesia, once in Australia. Have you guys ever been at that point where you thought it was actually all over?
Not in the water yet. Not really. I did have actually, when we were in Taiwan just this last year, and it was pretty big. It was like that monsoon sort of thing. Not the, like I was fine with the waves. They were fine. But there was this one wave in my round 2 heat that I got, and I hit a piece of chalk on the bottom trying to come off. And I got my leg rope wrapped around my foot. And I don't know if you've ever had that happen on a bigger set before at all, but oh man, I was under the water trying to grab my foot and untangle this leg rope underneath. I was like, I just have to get it off. And I knew that I'd missed the time that I was going to get it off. So I was like, oh my God, what do I do underwater? Kind of like, shit, this is going to be really painful. What's going to happen to my foot? So I just kind of like went with it. And then when I came up, oh man, it was so painful. Like just that leg rope burn around the foot, and then had to paddle back out through all these waves. But that moment underwater, like just before, and it wasn't too bad, kind of like kept going in with the wave with the board. But when I've had it happen a couple of times, even doing lessons and you're pushing people off and it like grabs around your hand, leg ropes, that's like one of my scarier moments. I'm like, I'm going to lose a hand or a leg, or I don't know.
Super scary. Nath?
Yeah, probably only that time I was alluding to before at Bell's, just duck diving, you know, seeing a massive set coming through and going like, oh my gosh, like, yeah, it's not a nice feeling at all. But yeah, I've only ever had it once, but yeah, I'll remember it for a while, I think.
Shawnee?
Yeah, mate. I am back in the New Zealand days. I used to work as a special events lifeguard, and one of the jobs we do was go up to Bailey's Beach, north of Auckland, west coast, for this big fishing contest. And this particular year, on the Saturday, the biggest surf I've ever seen. It's offshore. These waves are coming and they're 20 foot plus, and just mile long closeouts. The whole, when they broke, the whole ground would shake. I mean, it was awesome. Nobody went out above their knees that year and, yeah, doing the beach fishing or anything. So, you know, we felt pretty good that day. The next day, the swells dropped. It's sort of 6 to 10 foot and that, and I've sort of gone, yep, I'm going surfing, going out there and paddling around, and yeah, I'm sort of thinking I'm going home, no one else is out there. And I managed to get caught sideways or side on by a wave. It's just pushed me down and it's twisting me over, and like I'm just getting worked. And I've got to the stage where I'm starting to run out of breath. And I'm sort of going, shit. And I was really scared. I've opened my eyes and I still remember, sort of looking around because I didn't know which way was up and which way was down and that. And I could see there was some light. And I thought, well, shit, that's either the way up or the pearly gates of heaven. And I swam towards that. And I came in and I'd been washed a long way from where I'd got hit by this wave. But yeah, I thought I was gone. So
it's a horrible feeling, but it gives you a little bit of clarity in that moment as well, though. I remember, yeah, like I say, 3 times I've actually reached that point of I'm about gone. And it's usually at the end of a surf, you're already worn out. You've copped a couple on the head already, but big Uluwatu, not as big as it gets actually, straight, not as big as I've surfed it, but solid. And at the end of a surf, and the go-to thing as kids in that surfing Margaret River is deep water, so like you get held under and it'll hold you down. There's some waves here that will really hold you down a long time. And the thing was, you grab a hold of your leg rope and pull yourself up the leg rope. And so that was kind of, and this is what I'm saying before about when you've got a plan, you kind of relax and you chew through as much air and energy and things. And so that was, that's the plan. You're a big wave, you come off, just wait for a little while, pull yourself up the leg rope. And I'd copped a wave on the head at Uluwatu, and then just about made it under the next wave as I was paddling back out, and I just about made it around the corner, and this thing just axed me. And knocked the wind out of me instantly, so I didn't have a chance to get a breath, and I thought I was going to duck dive under it, and just axed me. And first thing was I was just getting pummeled, and then I got squished like face first, flat on the reef. It wasn't pointy or sharp; it was just a flat bed of rock, and I'm held down, and I was like, it'll be okay. I'll grab my leg rope and pull myself to the surface. And in that split second of all that going on, I put my arm out to my right, and my surfboard was pinned to the reef alongside me. And it was, the plan's not going to work. And that was one of those times. And not that actual wave, but the next wave got me again, and I was under, and I honestly did not think I was coming out of that. And I think what it shows for all of us as surfers is we do put ourselves in dangerous situations, but that's where some of the best memories come from. When we challenge ourselves, that's where some of the highest highs and the biggest progressions come from. And I think it also shows our resilience as creatures. We can survive some stuff. And I think until you stretch those boundaries, you don't really realize exactly how far we can go and still come back. And I think it's an interesting sport in that we all share that, guys, like regardless of tiny waves over coral reefs, just as dangerous as huge waves on sand, So it's kind of, there's balance everywhere. But every time we go out there, it's changing. The environment underneath us is different every wave, let alone every surf. And then there's all the animals and creatures that get involved, which you really don't get in any other sports. But I for one, am stoked with what you guys have shared with us tonight. It just shows, it's like character building things that you're not going to get playing tennis.
I don't know, dive bombed by a magpie?
Yeah, actually, yeah, you got me. Magpies are hectic. As long as you got a bike chain, you're in good nick. But Nathan and Kira, you guys have had an idyllic life. I wish I was you, but it seems like Sarah's taken me in the family, Nate. So see you at Christmas.
What'd you say? Sorry, Sarah's taking you.
Mate, Sarah's, you haven't read the comments.
Oh yeah, how gnarly was that? I was like, I saw it said like, "We'll take you ugly weeks." I'm like, what? Has to be a joke. But yeah, it was a joke, obviously.
Oh, I thought she was being really nice. I was like, "Yep, sweet Christmas with the Riverlands." Which resort will we go to?
Presents.
I bet they have good Christmas. The Riverlands have good Christmas presents. I can just tell, nicely wrapped, and lots of them. But Christmas is not that too far away now, and obviously if we keep going an hour and a half every week, Christmas is going to come even closer. But we've gone over the hour already, but only just. So anything to close up with, guys, as far as scariness in surfing and what it's done for you as a human?
It's one of the great things of our sport, as you said, is you can go out there and you can have that thrill from big waves, or like I know I've had some waves on reefs where they've thrown over you, and you really do have your heart racing. You just, because if you stuff up, you're going to bounce on the reef, but you go through it and you get slingshotted out into the channel or something, and your heart's going 100 miles an hour, and you're just going, oh yeah. That's such a good feeling.
There's a really cool saying, if you're not living on the edge, you're taking up too much space. I can just imagine 20 years from now, Nathan, it'll be people going, I remember that time when they dropped the extra chlorine bomb in there? Oh man, my eyes were burning. There must be the ability to hurt yourself, but I suppose at Tullamarine even more, like you've got that stadium effect. So you're gonna, if you fall off and kook it, you got all those. That would be scary. All those people watching.
The amount of people that say that they just like can't fathom that feeling of having everyone watching you. Like, yeah, you get, obviously working there, you just get used to watching heaps of people and yourself. You don't get overawed by it, but yeah, everyone comes for the first time. It's just like, oh my gosh, like people watching me, I'm gonna kook it. What if I do that? The photographer's there, he's gonna get the worst photo of me. But yeah, it's funny at the pool. Obviously, you can get a few beatings, and we've had a few injuries. But the wave generally doesn't. It kind of likes to throw you forward and kind of squash you down rather than fully just pitching you. So there's a lot, or knock on wood, but there's been a lot less injuries than I would have thought. Yeah, the wave, it's a bit, it just doesn't really capitulate you down and sort of like that you're gonna break your neck or anything. But not to say that couldn't happen, and I hope it doesn't. But yeah.
Look, it's
Right,
definitely
I
time to
really
go
hope
when
that
Nathan
doesn't
Riverlin
happen. I'm
starts
gonna
throwing out
work tomorrow.
4-syllable words. Shit, like, that's bigger than marmalade, mate. It's too late on a Thursday night for that. the multi-syllabic phrases. Shawnee, have you? Oh, let's go into Brady Bunch mode because that way none of you can get away with scratching your ears and things. But who we got on next week, mate? Because I know that we had you had a couple of things lined up for this week and they didn't all fall into place. But how are we looking for next week?
Yeah, no, well, Kira's lined up Lucy Small for us next week. That's right, isn't it?
Yeah.
Lucy! I suppose with COVID, it's about the only time we could possibly catch her in the country.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Traveller,
That's excellent.
rider. So, yeah, no, it'll be a good show. Glad to have her on.
Awesome.
I may not be with us. I'm heading up to Agnes Water next week. So,
What are you doing up there, Sean McEwen? That sounds suspicious.
yeah, mate, didn't you get an invite?
Yeah. Yeah, an invite would be as useful to me as it is to Nathan.
Yeah, nah, I'm actually going up. For those that remember Katie that used to work with us at the contests here.
Oh, Katie Warrener.
Yep, Katie's married.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, so yeah, she's finally found, after kissing enough frogs, she found a prince, and yeah, she's really happy and wish her all the best. So we're going to head up there, and depending on whether I can get tuned in time, I may or may not be on the show.
Tell her I'm super hurt, but I didn't get an invite. I thought I didn't think she would just dish me like that. But I couldn't. Mark McGowan
to
couldn't
Victoria.
get an invite, knowing I couldn't come because of the COVIDs, and Mark McGowan won't let anyone out or in. So not even Clive, especially not Clive.
Our borders are opening in 2 weeks. We're allowed to go to New South Wales. So,
Exciting.
I'll be so devo if Victorians can go places before West Australians can.
Oh, it's all happening pretty quick. I think this Sunday night the state kind of opens again. They're getting rid of that ring of steel in Melbourne, and then the borders are opening. So good work, all the Victorians, for hanging in there, because it's been a tough slog. We've had 6 days of 0 cases. That's like way better than New South Wales and Queensland too, I think. So touch wood, Vicos, we're on the
Come
up.
on, you guys are told so many pork pies about COVID. You wouldn't know what's true down there anymore. Come on.
I've also I managed to find out some Noosa Festival surfing dates.
Oh,
Okay.
So they're looking like the 15th to the 20th of May to save the dates in the calendar.
sorry, do you want to say the dates again? You glitched a bit. 15th to the
15th to the 23rd of May.
23rd.
15th to the 23rd of May. Beautiful. Right. Lock it in, Eddie. I don't know if I don't know whether we're ever going to go anywhere. WA, we've wanted to secede for so long, and now that we're getting a bit of a taste of it, I think we really quite like it. You guys all stay over there. We'll stay over here.
It'd be awesome if we could do like live shows from Noosa and that next year in Agnes. How cool would that be? If we're all allowed to travel again.
That'd be so good.
That would be
and
awesome.
For our viewing audience, whether you're watching us on YouTube or Facebook or wherever, or listening to us on a podcast as you drive carefully in your car, we'd love to get some input on next year's shows. What day of the week would suit you best? We're kind of floating some ideas because some people are indicating Thursday's not a great night. It's late night shopping here in Perth, in WA. So people got to do their late night shopping. But anyway, we'd love to hear from you so we can put all the... When are we going to get Jack back? We've got to start closing down travel in Byron Bay so that Jack comes back on the show.
Is he still sick? He was pretty ill last week, wasn't he?
I don't know. We didn't speak to him during the week.
He said he was super sick. I remember when he texted.
Yeah.
Hopefully he's all right. Hopefully he's not still sick.
Oh, that would be horrible if he's got the COVIDs and I've just made fun of him.
You better not.
Jack, we love you. We want you back. But we better get going. We're getting way late. So next week, episode 26, we've got world travelling journalist extraordinaire. We still claim her as a West Aussie, but I call her Lucy. But Lucy Small, she's joining us. I'm excited about that. We've been a quarter of a century, 25 episodes. Well done, guys. Give yourselves a pat on the back. Tell your mums we said good day. And thanks for joining us for these quarter century of shows. And we'll see you for the next 25 as well. signing out for this week. We'll see you next week right here on Oz Longboarding. You.
All right.
I got the what? I got the long.
The longboard talk. I never